Welcome back, everybody. Today we're going over this pistol that you see in my hands right now. It's the Smith & Wesson M&P Shield EZ, but in 9mm. So a lot of you guys are familiar with this little guy, the 380 version of it that's been out for a while now. But when this one came out, the 380 version, a lot of folks said, why not have it in a service caliber, like 9mm, for example. And Smith & Wesson listened, and they came out with what you guys wanted. So this pistol's brand new as of when you're seeing this video right now, but I had mine sent out from Smith & Wesson a little bit early so we could get some rounds through it and actually give you an informed opinion on it when we bring the review to you guys. So kind of, there's a couple big differences when you just are handling these two guns. Number one, the 380 is lighter than the 9. We'll roll in the weights here so you guys can see. So you're going to get a little bit more weight here with the 9mm, and then just sort of operating the gun itself. One difference, right, and one thing that people really liked about the 380 EZ, myself included, is that to run the slide takes almost no pressure at all. And on this one here, for example, to run the slide is a little bit more pressure. It's still not much. It's still less than a traditional, full-size handgun would be, but there's incremental differences that just had to do with the math behind shooting a higher power cartridge, which you have here with the 9mm, but of course you get what a lot of people perceive as increased lethality with 9mm, and I wouldn't argue that that's probably true. So compromises there, but what we're going to do is do some shooting with it, compare them, go over the details of this new gun here, and then at the end kind of wrap it up with my thoughts on it overall. We've got some 125 grain Minuteman munitions here. We're going to do a kind of like a recoil comparison test with the EZ380, kind of see how it feels there. So I was able to keep a pretty good cadence there, the 9mm. Now with the 380, we'll see how that does. Same distance, everything. Didn't lock the slide back. But either way, all of those rounds were on target. We have an 11x8 target downrange at about 12 yards. And what I would say, shooting them back to back, is there's no doubt the 9mm has more recoil, for sure. Is it dramatically so? It's going to depend who you ask. I'm a fairly proficient shooter, and to me it's not a big deal. To someone who's really not proficient, it could be, right? Because there is a difference for sure between the two. We'll work our way from the bottom of the gun to the top of the gun for some semblance of order. So the pistol does ship with two 8-round magazines. Now these magazines have some unique features, typically actually only found on 22 caliber pistols. It has these little wings here on the side. So what that allows you to do is pull down the actual follower and then insert a round. So that way people who have a hard time loading traditional magazines can get both the mechanical advantage of pulling it down, and they can also push from the top if need be. I haven't had to push from the top at all. I've been able to pull it down. However, one thing I will say is when you get down to the bottom there, it is a little bit snug, and I could see some folks having to utilize both pushing down and pulling on that follower tab there. So there is that, but it looks like we have steel mags there. They are ambidextrously cut, and the pistol ships with the slide release on the left side of the pistol. However, you can easily switch it out there with just a screwdriver. So that way, if you are left-handed and you want to swap that over, you can do so, and the mags are cut for it. Continuing on up, our grip here. A lot of folks say that the 1911 or 18 degree grip is ideal for most people in terms of pointing out and naturally acquiring a sight picture. I tend to agree with that. I tend to be one of those folks. This pistol has that, which is good. So it just points naturally for most folks as you pick it up and orient it at the target. Now back here we do have a grip safety. Some folks like it, some folks hate it. They also make these with an available thumb safety if you guys are into that sort of thing as well. I don't mind the grip safety. If it wasn't there, I wouldn't be mad about it either though. But if you take a natural firing grip, you're gonna hit it every time. So there is that. It doesn't bother me. It doesn't interfere with the web of my hand or anything like that. Stippling texture there is very similar to the EZ380 if you've ever felt one of those. And compared to like the M&P 2.0 full-size pistols, it's a little bit less aggressive than that. And I tend to like aggressive texturing, but I know a lot of people don't, and they think it wears their clothes and their skin and things like that. So
If that's the case, it'll probably be something that you like a lot. Of course, I would imagine this pistol is going to be super popular. I'm probably going to say this throughout the video several times, but I'm sure companies are going to make, aftermarket grips that you can wrap on there. Continuing forward, we do have our slide lock, slide release lever there. And as you can see, it kind of sticks out a little bit, which is nice. Now, it also has this protected piece of polymer there. And what that's for is to prevent you, if you're using a nice high grip, like a lot of folks recommend, myself included, it prevents you from accidentally actuating it, causing either a false slide lock or causing the slide not to lock back on the last round. I haven't had an issue with either of those throughout the testing of the pistol, so it seems to work as designed. That said, I've talked to a couple people who have already fired this gun, and one of them pointed out that for her, she's female, she had a hard time actually pushing down on the slide lock and activating it. Now for me, I don't, but I have big gorilla hands, so again, that may be something that some folks are concerned with, but keep in mind, we'll get to it later, but it has these nice tabs here on the back that you can just run the slide and release it like that if you want to do so. Continuing forward, we have our takedown lever, which we'll get into here in just a second. And we also have a 1913 rail there up front. And on the right side of the pistol, that's where you're going to see the steel insert where your serial number is. But this pistol here will fit a number of different lights that are out there. If you guys are looking for that, lights and lasers, the Streamlight TLR7 I put on there. The Inforce with the 1913 adapter works on there just fine. And as does the Olight series of lights, their PL Minis, all work on there just fine. So you can absolutely have the ability to run a light on this, which is huge in my opinion for any type of defensive gun. Along with the EZ380, the trigger on this pistol is somewhat unique. When you look at the M&P series here, you just expect it to be a striker-fired gun, but it's not. It's actually a hammer-fired gun, which you'll see when we take it apart. When you actually, we'll make sure we are clear, and we are. We have our grip safety engaged, and just a quick note on that, if I don't engage it, it will not fire. You'll notice that it doesn't have a trigger safety like the full-size M&Ps do, so that's why we have grip safety there in the rear. But when you engage the grip safety, you have a little bit of slack, and then you get to your wall. It's very predictable. It breaks right at 6 pounds. It's clean. For a double-action trigger, I think it's excellent. And then you'll notice there that we do have the over-travel stop built into the frame of the firearm, which is nice. It keeps you from having a bunch of over-travel and slop in there. And the reset is right there. You guys probably heard it. And then it's right where the wall is. Essentially, I let it out past that, take it up again, and it breaks nice and clean, again, right at 6 pounds. These are very shootable guns in terms of the trigger. There's no reason that, unlike some other firearms out there, that the trigger should impede you from getting hits at all.
Now we're going to see if it has any issues with full capacity, i.e. 1 in the chamber like we have it here, and then 8 rounds in the mags. Some guns have a hard time with that, other ones don't. So we'll check it out. Just fine. Mag lock back.
The slide on the pistol has their Armornite finish on there, and that's Smith & Wesson's term for what folks may know as nitriding, melaniting, nitrocarburization. All pretty similar. There's slight differences with all of them, but they give you good surface hardness, good corrosion resistance, and also good lubricity as well. It actually impregnates the metal, so even if you start to see wear on there, the metal underneath that is still protected by that process, which is pretty cool. Up front here, we have these little mini serrations. They're not really great for doing much beyond press checks. If you want to use it for that, that's fine. But if you want to run the slide, you're impeded there by the actual frame coming out. I'm not sure if you guys can kind of see that there on camera, but I think most folks are going to use these serrations there at the rear if they want to run the slide that way. And not only are the fish scale serrations really good in terms of giving you a nice positive control of the slide, but they have these little tabs that stick out, which I really like. Other companies are doing this as well now. I think Smith, in the modern era anyway, was probably the first to do it, but it sticks out, so that way if you want to grab it, it gives you a nice ledge there for your fingers to ride on, and even to come over the top, you also get the purchase there. I think there's really not any reason not to do it, because it doesn't actually, as you guys can see here, it doesn't actually make the pistol any wider. It just stops out in terms of width right there at the frame, which is nice. We do have a loaded chamber indicator there on the top. It would be sticking up if there was a round in the chamber. And the sights on this, as of right now when I'm filming this video, I don't know of any aftermarket companies that are going to be offering sights with this. However, the rear sight is the same as the Shield 380, which is cool, and it's very easy to change. We'll show you that when you take it apart. All you get to do is loosen the screw on the inside. And the front sight, just actually measuring it, looks exactly the same in terms of measurements as the Shield sight. So I'm guessing within days of this video being out, there will be aftermarket sights for these, and I will put a link down below when those come out, because they're already available. Companies just have to package them together, which is nice. So in terms of using them, they're just fine. It has that square notch there in the rear with the serrations, white dots, all steel, which is nice, something that a lot of competitors out there aren't using. I do wish it had a ledge there on the rear just for one-handed manipulation, but I realize a lot of people that this pistol's probably oriented towards aren't going to do that anyway, but it doesn't hurt to have it. So that's my 2 cents there. Now we'll get into disassembly of the pistol. So we're going to lock the slide to the rear by pushing up here on the slide lock. And at this point, we're going to rotate our takedown lever 90 degrees and release it, and make sure you're holding on to it because that slide will come off just like so. And you'll see here on the inside, we have some wear just because we've been shooting it, of course, but this is actually the hammer of the pistol. So it's got an internal hammer in there, and when you fire it, that's actually what's going forward. If you ever do any test firing or dry firing like I'm doing right now, make sure you put your finger up there so it doesn't do any damage. But yeah, that is exactly how the hammer function works. We'll take out our guide rod and spring assembly. You guys can see it is metal, which is nice, and a lot of folks like that. We have our barrel. A barrel itself is just over 3.6 inches. Has a crown out there on the end, which is nice. Accuracy from this gun has been very good overall. No issues at all to report. We have a nice wide feed mouth on there for feeding hollow points and other types of oddly shaped bullets. And there is our slide. And there's that screw I was mentioning earlier. When you go to change your rear sight, all you do is loosen that up. You can swap it out pretty darn easily, but that's it. Reassembly, you just have to make sure that this, your guide rod here, that your actual curved part goes into the curved part on the barrel. Other than that, it's pretty darn straightforward. You guys can see on the barrel we have some wear going on, but like I mentioned with that Armorite finish, it's still protected regardless. You put it in there, and again, you want to make sure that the actual part that isn't flat goes into the barrel. And at this point, reassembly is pretty simple, but there's one caveat to it. So you're going to line it up there on the rails. Do not press your actual grip safety when you're trying to reassemble, because that's what's going to happen, and you won't be able to do it. So just make sure you're completely release that grip safety, and then at that point, run it to the rear, turn your lever, and you're back and ready to go.
We have some 124 grain Federal HST hollow point ammo here loaded up. It's some of my favorite defensive ammo, as longtime viewers know. We'll see how it does and actually where it prints as well. So I'll go over here on the left target so I can see the actual impacts. Again, at 12 yards here. It's dead on. It's about an inch low, so the group is, so but good to go. Obviously function just fine and plenty accurate.
I'm not a huge fan of comparison videos, but in this one I think we have to sort of compare these two for sure. The original 380 EZ up top, and then our 9mm here on the bottom. Before moving forward, one thing I should mention here is that the rear sights are the same like I talked about. I ordered some True Glow sights. Actually, I was going to use them in this video. I didn't realize the sights were different until I got it in. So we threw the two True Glow sights on our 380. They're fantastic, by the way, but just wanted to make that point because they did send them out for this review, but they didn't fit, as I didn't know, and we kind of already covered. But sights are going to be the same on them, though, as they come from the factory in terms of a 3-dot sight configuration. Now, in terms of size, one thing you'll notice is that if we actually line them up back to back, the 9mm, I'm not sure if the camera can kind of gauge that, but I mean, it's a touch longer, like maybe a millimeter or two. And then the beaver tail here on the 9mm is also a little bit longer, but otherwise they're identical in terms of vertical size. And you'll note that width, it's a little bit different as well. So this is our 9mm here that you guys can see, and it's definitely wider. I'm sure that's just because of the increased pressure of 9mm, and it just needed to be a little bit stronger. But because of that, The 380 Shield EZ holsters, if you have them, will not fit the 9mm. At least mine won't. I have two. Neither of them fit. I know Smith & Wesson sent some samples out to holster companies, so those are going to be out there probably when you're watching this again video. Those holsters will be available. Again, I will drop a link down below if you guys are looking to pick them up. So that's good on Smith & Wesson for actually having some accessories out there when the pistol actually comes out, but they definitely have a weight difference as well, and then the size difference that we talked about. Grip on them feels pretty much identical. I mean, let me check real quick and make sure. Yeah, so the actual front to back dimension is the same. However, the width on the 9mm is a touch more, but it's not really a huge difference. And I think anybody whose hands are going to feel fine on the 380 are probably going to feel fine on the 9mm as well. And to further complicate the decision process, I'm sure folks will ask, why not get the M&P 2.0 subcompact that was recently released as well, if you're going to get something in 9mm in the M&P lineup? Well, there's definitely differences there. So the 2.0 here has a much more aggressive grip texture. As you guys can see, it takes different sights. The big difference there is going to be the width and the length. So you can see it's fatter, right? So if you're trying to carry this one, it's definitely wider there in the frame by just a touch. It's not a ton fatter, but it's a little bit fatter there. And in terms of the actual width there on the back with the grip, again, you guys should be able to see that difference pretty darn clearly. Length there, if we line the slides up, pretty darn similar, real close there. The butt, though, is going to be shorter. So if you are concerned about concealed carry printing and you're concerned primarily about the butt sticking out, which a lot of folks who carry at the 3 or 4 o'clock position are concerned about, that could be a thing for you. Weight-wise is also going to be different. Of course, this one has the ability to take higher capacity M&P 2.0 magazines, but this one here is going to be a little bit slimmer, probably more comfortable for most folks with a natural grip because you can get all your fingers on there. And the grip circumference for folks with smaller hands is definitely going to fit better here on the Shield EZ. Before I cover my thoughts on the Shield 9, I kind of want to back up and go back to the 380 because I realize a lot of you guys watching this video and gals didn't watch my original 380 video. So some of the things that just made this pistol awesome in my opinion, and I didn't think I was going to like it, but it won me over and I love it, but was just how easy it is to control, how shootable it is. Anything in terms of working the action, every female shooter I've given this gun to loves it. They all love it in every way. It's just for somebody who doesn't have really strong hands, who may have some sort of disability, who may be like a smaller statured person, as many females tend to be compared to men, right? Who may not be super experienced shooters. They just love it. There's not a lot of blasts. There's almost no recoil for a non-22. This is about the lightest recoiling gun you're going to find out there. And it just is a great solution for a lot of people's needs. I absolutely stand by that. And again, I was surprised by it. I really didn't think I was going to like the gun. I was like, it's too big for 380, blah, blah, blah. But I think there's just a ton of people who would be better off with this gun than a lot of other guns that people are recommending for them to have. It's just super easy to use. It's reliable. It's accurate. All of those sorts of things. And on that note, only hits count, guys, in terms of lethality. So for a lot of people, having that less recoil, that less blast will help them practice more and then, of course, increase their hit ratio. So moving on to the 9mm, I think I kind of intimated it earlier with the comparison of the 2.0 subcompact. Like the slide's harder to rack on that. It's bigger, it's bulkier, it's all of those sorts of things. This still allows for just about everybody out there to get a full-size firing grip. Recoil, like we talked about earlier, just comparing the two, it's not bad at all in any way. But again, in terms of incrementalism, it's a little bit more than 380, right? So kind of thinking through all of that, I was like, well, who would I recommend what to, right? And so, for example, my wife is a relatively small woman, and she's kind of tiny, which is good, in my opinion. I like it. And she's not a super proficient shooter. She shoots maybe once a year, maybe. She's not anti-gun or anything, but she's not like into guns like I am. So for her, who's somewhat proficient, I think she would be absolutely fine with the Shield 9mm. I don't think she'd have a problem with the blast, the recoil, anything like that, because it's still much less than most full-size pistols. Now, who wouldn't be okay with it, right? I don't want to say anybody wouldn't be okay with it, but who would I recommend still the 380 to? So somebody who's new to guns for sure, kids who are new to guns. For instance, my neighbor's daughter, you guys probably see her actually out here pretty often in the background fishing and whatnot, but she's, I think, 11. Something like this would be much better for her to practice with at the range and build skills with than this would be. Just, again, lack of proficiency, smaller stature, those sorts of things. Additionally, my grandmother recently passed. However, when she was alive, she wanted a gun for home defense or self-defense, and I think the 380 for somebody who's, you know, elderly and, like, as most elderly people have some sort of grip issues and health issues, this would probably be the better gun for that, because as you can see, I'm literally just pushing down on the slide and racking it. That's how easy it is to manipulate anything on it. And again, it's a very reliable pistol, and neither of these, I should point out that I've tested both of them. Neither of these are very prone to limp wrist malfunctions, which is super important for anybody who is going to look at these types of pistols for sure. For those who don't know, who are new here, limp wrist malfunctions occur when you don't grip the pistol firmly and the slide doesn't have enough force opposing it to actually go all the way back and go all the way forward and pick up the next round and feed it. A lot of polymer guns are very susceptible to that. I believe, this is my guess here as to why these ones aren't as susceptible as many, is because they have a lot of steel reinforcement in the frame, kind of keeping it a little bit more rigid. But neither of them have a big susceptibility to that. It can happen to all guns, but like for instance, Glocks are really susceptible to that. So just keep that in mind if you're looking around at different options out there. But yeah, I didn't mention it already. Round count, we're right at 350 rounds, so not a ton, but enough to sort of bring you an opinion. It's been flawless in terms of reliability. It's eaten everything, which is good. Accuracy's been good, like we talked about there with those HSTs. For me, it's very shootable. Concealable, I absolutely wouldn't be against carrying this gun. Would it be my primary choice? Me personally, probably not. I would probably opt for a Shield 2.0 over this, and I do, because I carry the Shield all the time. A little bit smaller package, and I don't mind the additional recoil that comes with it, but again, I would not be against carrying this either. And again, it can double as sort of a carry and home defense gun as well, being able to add that light on there for low light operations. And again, I'm sure there's going to be plenty of night sights and stuff like that out there that are coming as well. But yeah, I like the gun for sure. Again, though, you know, just be aware when you're looking at it, trying to decide between the two of the things that we talked about here today. Price point on this, I haven't seen it yet because, again, as I'm recording this video, it's not out yet, but I would imagine MSRP is going to be pretty similar to the 380, around 400-ish plus or minus $50 street price. You're probably going to see it right about that as these first come out, because I think this is going to be a super popular gun. I think Smith & Wesson is going to sell tons of these, and probably going to be pretty competitive for a while there, price point wise, but we shall see. If you have any questions about the pistol that we didn't answer here, by all means, post down below in the comment section. As always, you guys will definitely be seeing this pistol used more going forward as we bring new people onto the channel to let them try out different guns and those sorts of things. And I'm going to shoot it some more as well, just to continue testing. But yeah, you can post those comments, questions down below in the comments if you want to, rather. But the best place to reach me if you actually need an answer to the questions is over at my Facebook page that you guys see here. I actually respond to all the messages I get over there. Sometimes it takes me a couple days. There's a few 100,000 of you and only one of me, but I will get to you. And I also post deals and sales and stuff like that over there at that page. And if this thing goes on sale, not only will there be a link pinned in the comments, but it will also be over at my Facebook page there for you guys to pick up. That's pretty much it. Thanks for watching, guys. Thanks for subscribing. I truly appreciate it. And I look forward to seeing all of you in the next video.